Hi, Jason Canal, GQue BBQ. Today I'm going to show you a very simple, very easy way to make delicious smoked meatballs. We're going to do it two different ways. We're going to make the first set by braising them in beer. We're going to make the second set by braising them in soda. If that's something you want to see, it's coming up right now. For proven recipes and techniques using live fire, smash down that subscription button and hit that bell notification, and you won't miss any of our videos. So the inspiration for today's video comes from a desire to create some good game day food. We're going to start off by grinding our own meat. We're then going to smoke it to get that really good smoke flavor in there. I want to keep this as simple as possible because on game day you got all kinds of things going on. You want to watch the game and the last thing you want to be doing is hovering over a pit. So this recipe is going to be very simple, it's going to be very short, but it's going to be awesome. Today we're going to use the Gateway drum smoker to smoke off the meatballs. We're shooting for a target temperature of 350 degrees. I'm going to begin by filling a charcoal basket about halfway filled up. This is going to be a really quick cook today, so you could probably even get away with a quarter of the way filled up. I'm going to light the center of the briquettes using this fire starter. I'm going to put a couple briquettes on top of it. Now that it's lit, I'm going to return the basket back to the smoker. Once our fire gets going, I'm going to add a hickory log so we can get that good hickory smoke flavor into the meatballs. For the meat, for today's meatball, I'm using chuck. What I love about this particular chuck is it's absolutely gorgeous. Look at all this fat running through it. We're going for about a 75 to 25% ratio, and I got that right here in this beautiful piece of meat. The first thing I don't want you guys to think if you don't have a meat grinder is to be intimidated by this, to think it's complicated, to think it's hard to use. This is a meat grinder we use here in the restaurant, and it's super easy to use. I'm not going to take it apart right now, but if I did, you'd see maybe 3 or 4 parts on the inside. That's it. It's a very simple, easy to use piece of equipment once you use it one time. It's okay if you don't have one of these. You can still make awesome fresh ground meat without having a meat grinder. In fact, I made a video showing you guys how to do that making hamburgers. If you'd like to see that video, go ahead and click the iCard up above. To use the meat grinder properly, we want to cut strips of beef that's the same width as the hole. So I'm going to go ahead and cut about 1 inch wide strips of beef to fit in the meat grinder. It's also important to remove any bones or any silver skin that's on here, but this is all pretty good, so I don't have to remove a lot of stuff on here. I'm also going to make it easy by cutting it into little chunks. Look at all of the fat that's in here. This is going to give us a good 75-25 meatball. Beautiful. So now I got this beautiful freshly ground chuck. Super important not to pack these meatballs super tight. If you pack them too tight, they're going to get very dense and they're going to be very hard. We're going to delicately put these together so they become very light and very tender. A couple different things we can do with this. It's very common to add some sort of item that's going to stretch it out. Very common in meatloaf, very common in meatballs, something like croutons, something like crackers, something like bread. I'm going for a big, bold beef flavor, so I'm not looking to stretch the beef at all. So we're only going to add seasoning to this, and I also want to keep this as simple as possible, so we're going to add one thing, and that's just the rub. What I love about the rub, it's got everything in it. It's got sweetness, it's got salt, it's got all kinds of different seasonings, it's got everything I'm looking for, and I think it's a great partner to beef. I am going to add just one thing to hold the meatballs together so they don't fall apart during the cooking process, and that's an egg. For every 1 pound of beef, use 1 egg. We've got 2 pounds of beef going, so I'm using 2 eggs. I'm going to incorporate the egg into the meat very gently, making sure that we get some egg coated on all the different pieces of the meat. Okay, so now our beef is seasoned. I'm going to go ahead and roll them into meatballs. Keeping in mind, I'm keeping it very loosely packed. I want a nice tender meatball. That's what we're going for. A nice light and tender meatball, not a hard, firm, dense meatball after it's cooked. So our meatballs are all rolled out. I'm gonna hit them with one last coat of the rub. All that we added this was the egg so that it will hold its shape during the cooking process. Our pit's coming up to temp. You don't want this getting any hotter than 350 degrees. Anywhere from 225 to 350 will work just fine. These guys are gonna cook really fast. So we got both pans. I'm gonna put them onto the drum. I don't want these guys getting over 350 degrees. They can really cook anywhere from 225 to 350. The main thing we're going for right here is we just want to get that smoke flavor down into the meatball, which we'll be able to get here on a drum. I'm going to cook these until they hit about 140 degrees. At 140 degrees, something called the Maillard reaction happens. And that's where the crust forms on the outer layer. And once that takes place, the meat's not going to be able to take on any more smoke flavor. So once we get that Maillard reaction happening, which we can tell by the color and the temperature, we're then going to add our braise to the meatballs. If we add our braise right now, we're not going to get that smoke flavor and we're not going to get that good crust into the meatball. So we're going to make two braising liquids today. The first braising liquid is going to be alcoholic. We're going to take a very light beer. I recommend a lager or maybe a Pilsner, maybe even an ale if it doesn't have a whole lot of hop to it. But certainly that's just my recommendation. If you like something a little bit hoppier, use it. Just recognize you're going to have a big beer flavor and that beef isn't going to be the primary flavor, but certainly use whatever type of beer you like for your braising liquid. So we're going to take our barbecue sauce, which is the Hottish. I like it because it's going to have a little bit of a zip, a little bit of heat to it. I think it's really going to provide a nice complement to the beef and to the beer. So we're going to go about 2 parts Hottish, 1 part beer. And for the beer, I'm using a local brewery, Four Noses Pilsner. We're going to go ahead and mix it all up. Here's our beer braise for our smoked meatballs. For our second braising liquid, we're going to also use Hottish. I love that zip, that heat we're going to get from that and the tang from the vinegar. I think that's going to complement really well with the Dr. Pepper soda. It's going to be sweet and it's going to have all those different flavors going on. So we're going to do the same thing, about 2 parts of Hottish to go with 1 part Dr. Pepper. Name of the game here is keeping it super simple. We've got just 2 ingredients. Now we've got our soda braise for the second set of meatballs. So these meatballs have been going for a few minutes. I can tell right now they've already got a beautiful smoke flavor on them by the color. See this nice mahogany red color? That's going to let me know that the Maillard reaction's taking place. We're getting good crust formation on the meatball, so that if we were to add a liquid right now, we're not going to lose any of that. It's already in the meatball. There's going to be good smoke flavor and there's going to be a good crust on the outside. So we're at about 145. So that's right where I want to be. Before I add the braising liquid, you'll notice there's a bunch of grease forming in the bottom of the pan. I'm going to go ahead and drain that off and then add the braising liquid. So now that we got our grease strained off, I'm going to go ahead and add our braising liquid. I want this to come up to about halfway of the meatballs, which it did. And the other one, I'm going to add our Dr. Pepper barbecue sauce braising liquid. And this is also coming up to about halfway. So the meatballs are temped out right around 145 degrees. They're done when they hit 165 degrees. So these guys are going to need to go for another 5 to 10 minutes till they're done. But what's great about this from Game Day is you can leave them on for another hour, 2 hours, and just let your guests during the game come over and help themselves. So these guys have been cooking for about another 15 minutes or so. They just temped out 170 degrees. What's great about this is the longer this sits, the better that braising liquid becomes. It'll start reducing, and while it reduces, it's going to intensify in flavor. I'm super excited to try these. It smells absolutely delicious. I'm just going to try some of the braising liquid right now. Absolutely delicious. I'm going to go ahead and get these guys off the pit, garnish them up with a little bit of parsley, and then give them the old taste test. All right, so I just got these guys off. Holy moly, I cannot wait to try them. I sampled some of the braising liquid earlier, but I want to try them both side by side. Both of them absolutely delicious. I think I have a preference for the Dr. Pepper one. I love the sweetness that it brings that I'm not really getting with the Pilsner beer braised meatballs. Both of them though are absolutely phenomenal. So rather than using a toothpick, we use pretzel sticks. We got these guys all sticked up. We got them garnished with the parsley. Only one thing left to do. Now for my favorite part, the taste test. Wow guys, that was absolutely fantastic. Because we didn't pack that meatball too tight, it was really delicate, it was really tender when I bit into it. I definitely picked up the smoke flavoring. Such an easy recipe. It was just the barbecue sauce in the beer or the barbecue sauce and the soda. And I don't know how much more flavor you can get out of something with that few ingredients. This is absolutely something you guys should try. If you got friends, you got family coming over on game day. Guys, if that looked good, if that's something you want to try, give me a thumbs up. Until next time, Jason Canal, GQue BBQ.